All right, so I recently just finished this book, Understanding Michael Porter by John Margareta, and I've discussed this earlier as well. But this one, I've just finished it, and it's wonderful, wonderful. Such a beautiful, beautiful book by Michael Porter, and it's just about strategy, business strategy, competition, competitive advantage, and how do you differentiate yourself? How do you create these unique set of activities in your business that actually make it impossible for other people to copy you and imitate you. And this is strategy at its really good. I mean, I'm surprised that I did not delve into it earlier. I'm really surprised that I did not come back to it earlier, or read up on Michael Porter's work earlier. So uh, really sad about it, but I also think that his work is quite heavy, and so it did require some maturity on my end to get to a place where I could actually understand and synthesize it. And even this book that I'm reading or read just recently, this in itself is a simplified version of his work. So I don't know how his actual work would be, and how difficult or detailed or complex it might be. But I think I have a good understanding and hold of what he's trying to say. Also, there's a lot of synthesis between different other concepts and strategies that I've read, which is blue ocean strategy, and what J. Abrams says about differentiation and having like a different set of activities. And at the same time, Steve Jobs says how everything is about values, marketing is about values, and the business is about values. Same as for Peter Drucker, that there are only two things that a business does. One is marketing, the other is innovation. So I could just collate all of these things together in one place, and see how these all amalgamate and work together, and kind of piece together in what Porter is trying to share, making it even more useful for me, because I could, even without applying it immediately, I could see how this is true, because of logically it makes sense, and I've seen enough case studies, and I've seen enough companies around to see it, to make it work. Now, so there are 5 chapters in this. Yeah, in total it has 6 chapters, but essentially the first 3 chapters are about competition and where to go with it. So I'm just using this chapter by chapter roadmap to kind of give you a breakdown of the book, and at the same time Porter's work. So first, Porter talks about what competition is, right? And how do you need to think about it. And he says that there are 2 ways to think about competition. One is the usual form, which is what we do instinctively, which is, if someone else is doing X business, I should also do the same thing. Similarly for YouTube, right? So if someone else is making this kind of video, I should also make the same kind of video. Now, that might be true in the short run, but what's going to happen in the long run is everything is going to look the same, and no one's going to actually go for your video, or go for your business, or go for your product, right? The airline business failed miserably in the US because of this, because they were all competing on the same things, right? They were all trying to be the best. If someone added food, then everyone else would also add food to the flight. If someone added business class, they would also add business class. If someone added first class, they would all add first class. And all of this created a lot of value for the customer, but at a very, very, very low price, which was just not sustainable. And all of the airlines in the US history made major losses, right? So that's about this particular kind of competition. This is the kind of competition which is called being the best competition, or it's just a zero-sum competition. This is Michael Porter's words, that this is essentially a zero-sum competition, and it's not really helpful for anyone in that industry. The second form is much better and much more interesting, and it requires a lot more creativity, which is the positive sum competition, or being uniquely best at something, right? When you become uniquely best at something, then that becomes your competitive advantage, as well as like that becomes your differentiation in the market. So essentially what it means is, if everyone is doing the same thing and competing on the same features, what is it that you can uniquely create for a very small segment of the market, right? And when you do that, what's going to happen is over time that market is going to grow, because people like it and your product actually solves a real problem. And then there will be people coming in from the other side of the market that will make that market broader. And that happens everywhere. Apple did this beautifully in the PC era, right? Apple was demolished in the PC era because they were literally like minuscule, like 1%, 2% of the market share initially, when Steve Jobs returned. And essentially Apple computers and all of the rest of the computers on the market started to look like the same. They had the same features, they had the same visual as well as software capabilities. So what Steve Jobs did was essentially bring this new concept of industrial design to PCs, and essentially said that we're going to make the best PCs ever, and we're going to make them beautiful, that everyone, when they put it on a desk, it looks beautiful and it becomes aesthetic, right? The moment he did that, the sales started rising. Now, not all people bought it. Only people who cared about design bought it, which is essentially filmmakers, all the creatives, filmmakers, graphic designers, people associated with the print industry or the fashion industry, and so on. And all of these people started flocking to Apple, particularly for because of the design, and then of course for the software that they had built internally, and of course all the hardware that they had as well, right? So all of that came later because not a lot of people understood the details of it, but the design in itself was quite appealing and different from rest of the other boxes, the black boxes or gray boxes that were there. So that made a lot of difference for them. And that's how Apple kind of created that unique niche, or they kind of carved that niche out for themselves in the competitive PC market. And over the years, they've essentially become a trendsetter because of that design language, as well as the kind of the way that they've presented the brand as well overall, right? So now what happened is, over there they created unique value. They created positive sum competition. That means no one can say that Apple won. First of all, that means there was no clear winner, because they created new value. So Apple was winning in a sense that they were increasing their revenue, and they were selling a lot more product than earlier. But it did not mean that they were kind of competing head on, or uh, they did not put down Microsoft, or they did not put down any other PC company in the process, right? They did not push them, they did not reduce their distribution channels and so on. So they created unique value, and people just flocked to it because of the new value that got created, and also the additional choices that the customers had now, right? Initially the customers only had one kind of choice, and now because of Apple's uniquely best creation that they had, there was a second option that they could choose. So that is about competition, and thinking about the competition in the right way. One is the zero sum competition, which does not help anyone and just creates copycats, and every business and the entire industry kind of goes down the dumpster. But then the second kind of mindset around competition is, how do I create unique value in this competition, right? How do I create unique value over here? And that unique value is what kind of differentiates you and differentiates your position in the market and the industry. And it does not take anything from the other competitors, rather it builds upon it. So the competitors have one option to serve, and you have another option to serve, and the customer has now two choices rather than one. The second thing that Porter talks about is five forces, which is the industry's five forces that are competing for its profit. Now, these five forces are really important to understand the industry dynamic, and because industry dynamic essentially makes sure, or it's kind of remains static across businesses, no matter what business that they're doing, right? For example, in airlines, the
the supplier of the business, the supplier to the airlines, essentially the Boeing and the Airbus. And there were only two suppliers. So if there are only two suppliers that you have to buy the plane from, they can raise their prices, they can ask for whatever they want, and you as an airline will have to pay for it, right? You don't have a third option, right? So the moment you have such strong industry dynamics, it creates a huge burden on the industry and the businesses specifically, and it kind of breaks down how much profit you can earn, how or what kind of business you can run on it, and so on. So that's really important to understand these five forces. And he said the five forces are quite simple. First is suppliers. So I'll just quickly share the five forces. The five forces are threat of new entrants. How difficult or easy is it for new entrants to enter it, right? And that could be because of either network effects, it could be because of um, capital, it could be because of expertise as well. So all of these are different reasons why or why not new entrants can enter business. Now why is that important? Because if it's very easy for new entrants to get there, then that means everyone is gonna go really down on price, and because everyone's gonna go really down on price, that creates a zero sum game, right? And so no one really earns or profits out of it. So unless and until there's high barrier to entry in the industry, the prices in the industry remain high, right? And if the prices are low overall in the industry, it becomes really difficult for you to create unique value. As like if you're going for like the positive sum competition, you have to really work hard to create unique value and charge higher premium for that value. So all of that is really important to understand. Second is bargaining power of buyers. So how powerful are the buyers? So buyers are essentially the customers. So how powerful is the are the dynamics of the customers over here? If the customers have too many choices, and too many choices as well as too many substitutes, then of course they're more powerful and they can choose between different options, right? So they don't really have to go for the airlines, they can also go for the trains, or they could just drive their car. So they have like too many options, and that does not suit and help your business. The third one is threat of substitutes or substitute products or services. So threat of substitutes essentially is the same thing that I said. It gives power and leverage to buyers, and at the same time, it's a direct threat because the customer could not just buy your product and rather go for some other thing altogether outside the industry as well. Then there's bargaining power of the supplier. So how powerful are the suppliers in terms of, again, airline business? It is quite powerful because there are only two major suppliers of the airlines or the aircraft, and that's why they have a lot of power. They have a lot of say in terms of what prices they're going to be making, what features they're going to add to their products, and so on. And then the fifth one is rivalry amongst existing competitors. How fierce or how normal is the rivalry in the among the existing competitors? Now again, that is important and to understand, because that rivalry creates uh, this price war, or the zero sum game, as we were just talking about. And that zero sum game is not good for anyone, but competition and competitors in general do not really understand that, and it becomes a zero sum game in a particular industry at times, right? For example, airlines again had a huge in US. Airlines again had a huge, I mean, there were so many airlines. They were all fighting against each other. They were all competing against each other on price and features, and it just became a losing game for everyone and the entire industry, because the customers got a lot of value. The suppliers, of course, had both the power as well as the value came out of it, because a lot of airline companies were investing into it, but it did not really help the businesses, because they were all competing, they were all putting their prices down, and they were not all, overall the prices in the industry became lower. Yeah. So these are the five forces that Porter says are really important to understand. So you can use these five forces both for the industry, which is the first thing that you should do, and second for the business itself, just to understand the landscape around the business and what are the things that are affecting a business. Now these are all frameworks that really help you understand how the world works and how this a particular industry works, and how things kind of connect with each other. And that's why this is one of the best known frameworks of Porter's work. The third chapter in this particular book and Porter's concept is competitive advantage, which is also the value chain and your P&L. Now, the competitive advantage allows you to follow the precise link between the value you create, how you create it, that is your value chain, and how you perform, that is your P&L. So, he's saying that the competitive advantage is simply this set of activities that you're going to do, which tells you how you create that value and how you the value you create, that means what kind of value are you creating, how you create that value, the actual value chain, that is where do you add or subtract things in the value chain, and third is what or how you perform overall because of it. So for Porter, it is finally for Porter, competitive advantage is fundamentally about creating value and doing so differently from the rivals. In this way, competitive advantage is about how your value chain will be different and your P&L better than the industry average. Now, all of this makes simple sense that, if you're creating unique value, your value chain is just essentially what all things go in the process. So um, for example for coffee, right, you take the coffee from the farm, or rather you grow the coffee, you pluck that coffee out, you grind it into coffee powder, you send it to different cafes, and then you drink it, right? Now that is essentially a value chain. Now where in that process can you add value for the customer? So now Starbucks essentially did all of it together, so they're essentially vertically integrating that, hey, like, we'll help support the farmers as well. Now they are doing it, initially they were not, but we'll help support the farmers now. We will grow the best coffee in the world, and because of that we will have the best coffee in the world, as much as possible. We will grind it and we will get it to our cafes. Now the actual value creation that they did in the beginning was essentially these cafe setups, right? So the value that they created was essentially over here, that rather than taking that coffee at your home and doing it over there, like having it over there, you take that coffee and you create you drink that at our third space, right? This is the third space outside of your office, outside of your home. You come here, you work, you talk, you uh, read, and you have your coffee, right? That was the value that they created in the first that was the first step of the value that they created, and then overall they increase their influence across the value chain, right? So where in the value chain can you particularly uniquely add your twist, your unique twist? And that's what this competitive advantage is about. Now don't forget that you will face competition as well. Once your concept starts working, there will be other people who copy you, right, and try to capture the value that you create, and that's just gonna happen. It's just an evolving thing. But further of Porter's topics and concepts, they will really help you analyze, okay, what can be done and what should be done by us. Fourth one was creating value, the core. What is the unique value proposition that the company is giving, which is again part of the value that you create. So it's very similar to that. What is the unique proposition a company offers its customers? This, in fact, is the first test of strategy. Now, this is the actual strategy part. This was the earlier was essentially the competition and how you understand the competitive landscape. A distinctive value proposition will translate into meaningful strategy only if the best set of activities to deliver it is different from the activities performed by the rivals. Competitive advantage lies in the activities, in choosing to perform activities differently or to perform different activities from rivals. A tailored value chain is strategy's second test. So, uh, this is really important to understand, because what is the unique uh, value proposition that you're creating for the customers which is, you know, very different from what they can get right now. If you can understand that, and if you can articulate it, and if you can actually execute it and present it to the customers, that in itself is a huge important and valuable thing for everyone. But second is, how do you actually execute it, and what are the activities that go into it? Activities are similar to value chain. um, that in order to provide a certain service, right, what are the different things that you're doing differently, very uniquely yours, which gives it a personality of the brand, of the company. That essentially are the different activities. So for example, Starbucks, there were cafes back in the US at that time as well, but very few. But yeah, Starbucks was the first one who opened up a large space. There were seating, casual seating, that uh, people could just lounge and stay there for hours. Earlier it was very sterile, and you could just sit there for like half an hour, 40 minutes, and then you'll have to leave, in the earlier cafes. But Starbucks created a place where you could just lounge, you could stay for hours and work from there, and just chat with your friends. And then they also added their own personalities at the same time. So this was the unique activity that they added, that in terms of design of the space itself, it was very different. Second, it was that, okay, the baristas are going to be our heroes. How are they going to be the heroes? They're going to be making it in front of you rather than making the coffee in the back. They will be making the coffee in front of you. You will get that aroma. You will get that coffee fragrance all throughout. And then third, you will also get you will you'll get a very personalized service from us. So every cup will have your name written on it, and you will essentially be your name will essentially be shouted in front of everyone to get that coffee, right? So you feel very privileged about it in a way. So that essentially, I mean, all of that is the unique value, or the unique way that Starbucks created their atmosphere, right? I don't see anyone else uh, copying it exactly as it is, right? No one can copy it exactly as it is. Everyone has their own different twist to it, and that's how it should be. So the tailored value chain is strategy second test. So these are different tests that you can have. So first is the unique value proposition. Is that very clear? And that's the first test of strategy. Second test is tailored value chain, which is, I said, the set of activities that the company is performing internally to provide that particular service or product. And if those activities are easily copyable, or they are not uniquely yours, then it's very difficult. But otherwise, if you have your unique twist to it, which other people cannot take forward, then it's in your favor. So next is trade-offs, which are the essential linchpins. Now the third test of strategy is possibly the hardest, which is making trade-offs, where as a business you have to say no to a lot of things, right? And that's what trade-offs are, that you have to say no to a lot of things so that you can do certain things really well, and your activities can compound over each other. So for example, Southwest said no to growing really quick, and to uh, not using any other aircraft other than Boeing 747 or 737, whatever. Yeah. So they were fixated on using that particular aircraft, so that the technicians are easier to find, they're easier to train, they could work all day long, and so on. So all of those things matter. Yeah. Then next is the fit, which is essentially the amplifier, which is how do the activities fit in together. And those activities, when they fit in together, it becomes really important, and it amplifies the overall effect of the value chain. And then the fifth, the last one is continuity, or the enabler, which is essentially how long do you stick to a particular strategy, right? Because strategy is not something that comes forward in like 2 months, right? You need to devote at least 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years to it consistently, and then only you get the results out of it, because it takes time to align everything together. It takes time to get all the pieces moving in the same direction, and at the same time converge to create that synergy that you're looking for. So it takes time. but you will see that happening. So that continuity is really important. Now there are strategies, there are business strategies that have staying power. That means they remain true for years to come and possibly hundreds of years to come, which is, say for example, uh, I don't know, like Walmart has a really good strategy of low cost, big stores with the lowest cost. So that strategy has stayed on for a very long time, and I think even after Amazon, it is gonna stay on for a very long time. Amazon provides convenience, and Walmart provides low cost at this point at least. So maybe they'll converge somewhere down the line, but right now it's not. I mean, it's getting into those places where both of them are starting to converge, but right now they're not. So Walmart has staying power. Similarly for Apple, they have staying power. They've created like an ecosystem of seamlessly integrated products that no other company in the world has as good as theirs. So that in itself is creating that continuity, and they're sticking to that strategy. Right? They did not shift from their strategy of simplifying things to design beautiful things and seamlessly integrating each one of them together in the ecosystem side. Right? They stuck to that strategy even after Steve Jobs passed away, and that is really valuable, because the longer they are able to stick to that strategy, the more value they're able to create, and the more stronger their strategy is getting. Right now, today, I don't think there's even a second, like, there's no second ecosystem of products that you can buy as seamlessly integrated as Apple. Right? It's just, I don't even think that's even a possibility. So yeah, these are the different things that Michael Porter kind of shares with us. They are really really cool, very valuable, and a great way to see how how you see competition, how uh, you fit into the industry, and then of course how you can make it worth your while by using different strategies in your own business. So I hope you liked it and enjoyed it. If you did, please subscribe, like this, put in a comment, share what your thoughts are on Michael Porter's frameworks and ideas. And I'll see you in the next one. Till then, bye bye.